Okay, welcome everyone to this webinar on the flipped classroom model. I'm excited to explore the myths and benefits with you today. When I saw the list of faculty members who were attending, I thought, okay, let me prepare something in which we can discuss best practices because I've seen most of you in our webinars and you have taught for Westcliff for quite some years, but it's always good to have a session to refresh the knowledge and to share best practices. But before we dive in, I'd like to hear from you. There is a question on the screen. What are the biggest challenges you face in engaging students during class time? Because I've been there. I've taught at Westcliff as well. I've used a flipped classroom. What are those challenges that you face? And how has the flipped classroom helped you address these challenges? So I wanted to share your thoughts in the chat. Just a minute. I know that there were two answers, but now I don't see them because I had to leave the room. So please feel free, before we get started, to share your challenges in the chat.
The chat messages were just everybody saying good morning, Dr. Shawaheda. So maybe now that we see the questions, we can answer them in the chat.
Am I sharing the screen? Right.
Yes, we can see the screen. Good to go.
Okay, perfect. Okay, there it is. That's the question. What are the biggest challenges you face in engaging students during class time? How has the flipped classroom helped you? And then what is it that you have done that is like great? It's been effective when it comes to best practices in the classroom, using the flipped classroom, of course.
Some of the students, maybe they know or they have information, but maybe they shy to share their information. Or some students, they don't know and they don't ask or let us know. We don't know. So that's why I guess, based on my small experience, that the student, when we do flip the classroom, we encourage them, we give them materials in advance, they will prepare and they come, they will feel more confident. Some thoughts.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you for sharing, Dr. Nino. Anyone else? Well, we're going to have a whole session to talk about this. So the flipped classroom, as we know, can be a powerful way to boost student engagement and learning. So today we're going to be discussing best practices that have been effective for other educators. So when I designed this session, I looked back at research and today I'm going to present a couple of ideas. But again, I want this to be more of a conversation. We're all seasoned teachers, instructors. So I want to hear from you. What is it that you're doing in the classroom? So let's get started. Oh, I have a comment on the chat. Prior knowledge of content and confidence are two things I have noticed. Absolutely. The flipped classroom has leveled the playing field because they can apply their knowledge in a safe place. Love this, Dr. Spencer. Thank you so much. Okay, so before we get started, I would like to go through a few house rules. First of all, mute your microphone when you're not speaking to keep the audio clear. Use the chat to ask any questions, share any thoughts, best practices. We love participation. Engage with the polls, reactions, and discussions that we're going to have today. I'm going to use for the very first time Mentimeter embedded in Zoom. So let's see how it works. So also respect different viewpoints. This is a safe space for learning. If you have any issues, as I did, try refreshing or just leave the meeting and rejoin. That really helps. It helped me. If you need any help, just reach out in the chat. You can chat Joni or myself or Dr. Nino, and we'll be there to assist you. And of course, as usual, this session is being recorded and will be shared in this month's PDG newsletter. So that we're going to be doing today. By the end of the session, I really want us to define the flipped classroom so we are all on the same page concerning what it is and the theoretical foundation supporting its effectiveness. I want us to identify and debunk common myths about the flipped classroom model. We are going to discuss the challenges that we may encounter when implementing this model and explore best practices to overcome them. We are going to explore practical strategies. Again, this is going to be a conversation. I brought just a couple of ideas, but you know best. So I want to hear from you. What is it that you're doing? What practical strategies you're using for designing and facilitating engaging in-class activities that build upon pre-class readings and resources. Since the flipped classroom model is a required instructional approach at Westcliff University, this session hopefully will provide you with applicable strategies and best practices to ensure a very effective and smooth transition from the professor being in front of the class to being a facilitator and by implementing the flipped classroom model. Now, I'm going to open a Mentimeter and I'm going to ask you, let me do, this is the first time I'm going to be doing this. I want you to think about what words, I'm going to go back. What words come to your mind when we think about the flipped classroom? So I am going to open Mentimeter. Let's see how it works. There you go. You can see the Mentimeter, right? Okay, so what words or phrases come to mind when you think of the flipped classroom model? You don't need to be that comprehensive. Words, ideas. You can join the Menti by using the code, or I'm going to add the link to the chat. Just give me a sec. Lively. Creation. Absolutely. That's key. What else? Let me get okay. Participation, absolutely. Interactive communication. I have the link to the Menti as well if you want to join this way. Engagement, inclusion. Thank you so much for sharing. You can continue discussing this. There you go. So I think we're actually on the same page when it comes to what the flipped classroom model is. So the flipped classroom model is a teaching approach. We know that shifts direct instruction outside the classroom. So instead of students engaging with instead students engage with content before class through assigned readings, videos, and other resources that are actually provided on the syllabus. So class time is then dedicated to active learning, discussions, problem solving, case studies, and any other hands-on activities. Now, the effectiveness of the flipped classroom is supported by several educational theories. So this is not a Westcliff University idea or just like a feeling that we feel like it's going to work. No, it's actually backed up with by research. But first, we have Bloom's taxonomy, right? So it was started in the 56 and it was revised in the last one was 2021. So the flip model enables students to engage with lower order cognitive tasks like remembering, understanding before class, freeing up class time for higher order thinking tasks like applying, analyzing, evaluating. It's also backed up by constructivism by Piaget, Vygotsky. This theory suggests that students learn best when they actively construct knowledge rather than they passively receive it. In-class activities encourage meaningful learning experiences. The flipped classroom model is also backed up by active learning theory in 1991, actually. And research shows that students retain more knowledge and they perform better academically when they participate in discussions, problem solving, and collaborative learning experience. Finally, it's also backed up by the cognitive load theory, 1988, that's the one. And it talks about how when students are first exposed to a new material in a low-pressure environment before class, at home, in their bedrooms, if you will, they have more cognitive capacity. to engage with complex applications and discussions during class time. So let's have a look at the difference between the typical classroom model and the flipped classroom. So the traditional classroom model relies on in-class lectures, so the professor is talking and talking and talking, as the primary method of content delivery, with students sitting in a passive role of receiving information. In contrast, the flipped classroom approach has students engage with course materials before class. Again, at Westcliff, we provide professors with a syllabus that provides all those resources. So allowing class time to be devoted to active learning and application of concepts. The instructor role also shifts in the flipped classroom. Rather than being the primary source of information, you become a facilitator, a guide, helping students work through problems and deepen their understanding. There's also a difference in assessment and feedback. In a traditional classroom, assessments are often summative, right? It's just grades, scores, with limited opportunities for immediate feedback. When we talk about assessment and feedback in the flipped classroom, we talk about formative assessment, short quizzes, peer discussions, instructor feedback. They are integrated throughout the learning process, allowing for ongoing improvement. So this results in a more active and engaged learning experience for our students, right? Where they are applying what they have learned rather than just passively absorbing information. Any questions, any comments, feel free to join the chat. Let me check the chat. Okay, wonderful. Now, this is an idea that actually we had from another course, another webinar that we delivered. Let's have a look at this business course example. So say that you're teaching a business course and then there's a pre-class video on financial forecasting. So before the class, the students complete a short quiz on GAP that you can provide there. You can create, you can actually customize your GAP page for your students and you can create quizzes. It's actually very, very simple on GAP. So they test their understanding of key concepts. In class, you organize students into groups where they analyze real world company data and predict future trends applying the concepts learned. So you can see that this approach enhances critical thinking, collaboration, while ensuring that students come prepared to class. This is just a very simple example of what the flipped classroom looks like. It doesn't look like the professor talking all the time. It's the professor building upon what students learned before coming to class. Now, the flipped classroom is a teaching model where students learn new content outside of class, right? And class time is used for discussions, application, and problem solving. There are many myths, though, and misconceptions about the flipped classroom. So let's take a moment to explore some of them. I'd like to hear from you, and I wanted to participate in a Menti in a second. What's one common myth you have heard about the flipped classroom, and one fact you know to be true? So this conversation will help us unpack some of the key ideas and get on the same page before we discuss best practices. There's a comment in the chat. Yes, Dr. Spessert, we have lots of resources on GAP on how to customize it. I don't have it right at hand, but I can send them to you. One of them, I know the title by heart. It's called Humanizing Your GAP Course. And that's kind of a how to customize your GAP course. But I send it to you. Don't worry.
If you send it to all, if that would be great, we can share it with
No,
all.
okay, good idea. I'll send it to all the participants. No problem. Absolutely. And this is actually part of the Joy of Teaching campaign, being able to customize your pages, and we're going to be providing resources with that. Well, let's use the chat box before, I thought about opening the Menti, but let's use the chat box. Okay, so those myths that you have heard. Students dislike it. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. Students don't like the flipped classroom. It's a chit chat session. That's a good one. Okay. Students must engage, learn to believe in themselves, and that increases their self-efficacy, and they actually become more engaged. That's a fact, right? Okay. Yeah, students won't engage with pre-class materials. That's one that I have heard a lot. When we talk about professors, you need to use a flipped classroom. Oh, students won't get prepared. Students won't read. So yeah, we are taking a different approach here. Not my job to teach others. Okay. Okay, interesting. Well, actually, when I was doing the research for this session, oh, sorry, I found like 20 different myths, and they were very, very interesting. So I just collected the ones that I know based on the data that we collect from faculty, that those are and students, those are the ones that we hear the most here at Westcliff. But please feel free to share yours on the chat box. Students gain insights and new perspectives from others. Absolutely. When the professor is not the only one talking in the class, there is room for other perspectives, for other students engaging to one another, thus learning from other cultures and other viewpoints. Okay, let's see. The first myth says flip learning just means watching videos. Play a video before class, in class, and that's about it. Is that a myth or a fact? Use the chat box. So I think it's a myth, right, Dr. Nui? There you go. Absolutely. Common misconception is that the flipped classroom rely solely only on pre-recorded video lectures. Well, while videos are often used as a tool for content delivery, successful flipped learning environments incorporate different instructional materials tailored to the different learning preferences of our students. So if you have a look at your syllabus, you have academic readings, you have case studies. Some of them, depending on the nature of the course, they have interactive simulations, they have podcasts, websites. So there are many, many, many other resources apart from videos. The key to flipped learning is not the format of the pre-class material, but its purpose. So ensuring that students arrive in class prepared to engage in deeper discussions, conversations, collaborative problem solving, and applied learning activity. Okay, good job, everyone. You got it. The second myth that I saw out there, scaling up the flipped classroom is a breeze, super easy. Myth or fact? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's see what the rest thinks. Yeah, it's absolutely a myth. Not really. While scaling active learning in large classes can be challenging, the flipped learning strategies can be effectively implemented through structured group activities that promote peer-to-peer learning, online discussions on gap that extend classroom conversations. So the conversations don't stay only in the classroom, but you move them to gap, and technology-based polling and quizzes, a Mentimeter that you can now embed in Zoom. Looks very nice, by the way. Or a Kahoot or any other technology-based polling and quizzes, even a Google form, engage students in real time. So with proper design, flipped classroom can function effectively with a large lecture-based course. The next one, the flipped classroom works for all disciplines. Myth or fact? Is it a myth or a fact? Dr. New thinks it's a myth. Dr. Spester, a fact. A myth. Okay, so we are divided here. It's actually a fact. The flipped classroom has been successfully implemented across different disciplines, including STEM, humanities, business and economics, education, and social science. Regardless of the subject, the flipped classroom can be adapted to emphasize critical thinking, problem solving, and student engagement situations. Of course, I'm not saying that it's not as challenging in certain areas, but what I'm saying here is that the flipped classroom has been successfully implemented and researched across different disciplines. There you go. Okay, the next one. Flipped learning is too time consuming for faculty. It takes forever to plan a class. It's a myth. A myth. Mm-hmm. A fact. Okay. Professor Inserto, can you elaborate? Why do you think it's a fact?
Did you
The
say?
rest believes it's a myth.
Because, oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know if you
Right.
said my name or someone else. Sorry.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Go ahead.
It's a fact because it takes a lot of time to think about what you need to present. Even say in a 1 hour program, it's not like you just go to the classroom and it's ready for you. You have to understand the students, understand the content, you want to decide what to highlight to make sure it's all integrated at the end of the program. So maybe it's not too time consuming, maybe it is time consuming, but maybe you delete the word too, I will say it's a myth.
Well, I can see your point here, and actually, I agree with you. It's kind of a yes and a no. Is that a myth, a fact? Actually, both. While the initial transition to a flipped classroom requires time to create free class materials, but we do that already at Westcliff, right? We provide the syllabus with the free class resources. But anyways, as a professor, I have taught at Westcliff for 9 years. I also provide my students with pre-class activities that I want them to engage with before coming to my live session, apart from the ones in the syllabus. So yeah, that initial transition requires time to prepare the class, but the long-term benefits outweigh the upfront effort. Once developed, these materials can be reused and refined each session. Additionally, the classroom time becomes more efficient as students come prepared. Grading often shifts from repetitive assessments to meaningful formative feedback. And you, faculty members, can focus on student-centered instruction rather than repeating lectures. I don't know about you, but I hated it when I needed to lecture the same course and I needed to say the same thing over and over again. I really enjoy it when I have already group discussions prepared. It can be the very same question every session, but it goes differently depending on the group of students you have. So you enjoy it way more. Professor Spencer.
Yeah, I completely understand it's yes and no, but one of the things I've kind of come up against that's causing me a little bit more time is, and I might just be because I'm new to the university and I don't know all the tools, but I have not found, I mean, I have so many different free programs, but you can only use them so often, like Quizlet and all of these Mentimeter, and I keep signing up for different ones. But I find that, is there one that the university has that I don't know about to help check for understanding, to gamify? Because I feel like my stuff's living everywhere. And that's one of the things that's causing me to spend more time. I know exactly what I want to do, but it's finding which free program I haven't used all the credits on. And maybe I should just buy the bulleted diet, but I'm like, is there one?
I hear you. Unfortunately, yeah, I hear you and I understand your question. Unfortunately, we don't have any right now. The only right now paid by Westcliff, like I paid for Mentimeter, but we're working on it. We are working on it, and hopefully, we will be able to provide faculty with access to one of these apps soon. I'm not going to say it. I don't want to compromise, but we are working on it because we know that there's a need right there. We ask faculty to use technology. We want to also provide it. So we're working on it. Now, I have used in my classes Google Forms as quizzes. And they're free, and they're not limited because Westcliff does pay for Google Suite. So that we have used that. Yeah, Google Suites have very good tools, and you can actually embed in Zoom. Another one, you can do your polls and surveys and quizzes on Zoom before the class, and you save them on Zoom. We have paid accounts, so you can totally do that. You can also use the whiteboards. to help, and they're for free as well. And there are hundreds of templates available on Zoom. And well, the last webinar that I delivered about the flipped classroom, I tried to use a whiteboard and it just didn't work. Because I had it said you have 5 windows open, and normally it does work really well for collaboration as well. Pair deck as well, yeah. Yeah, but I'm trying to think about those because I hear you, Dr. Spencer. I do the same. Like I have 50 participants per month in this free app, so I have 49. So I need to find another way to. So it's not the most time efficient situation. And they're working on it, I promise.
Thank you. I appreciate just the suggestions. Thank you.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, I like to use Miro. I teach at other universities tech comm, and I use it at work. We use it primarily for like workshops, and it's a great way to not only get roll call kind of, because they are in there, they need to put their name down. And Miro has a university, like if you're an educator, they have an educator account, so you can add more participants to your board. You don't just get like, I think with the free one, you get like 3 boards. So you can have 1 Miro per class, and then just continue to add frames per course, and just do your whole course on like 1 frame, and then also they have like an AI tool. So if you record your meeting, and they can like collect note, the AI tool will help you collect notes, and then you can pass those on to the students as well. So it will help you like create a learning resource for them.
Beautiful.
So.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for those tips. I do know that, yeah, I have used Miro as well, and it's wonderful. I have used Formative. I'm going to write it down here. I just don't remember. And it's for free. I didn't know that. I just logged in and I heard about it, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to see it. And it's very, very nice, and it's totally for free. Now, I understand that when we talk about the flipped classroom, we think the first thing that we think about is technology. It doesn't need to be, right? So you can engage and work on group discussions and all that just by using the tools that you have on Zoom. Again, Zoom provides you with ways to create surveys and polls beforehand. That's what I do when I teach. And then share with students. You can also, with the whiteboard, there are many, many opportunities, and you can download, you work with your students on the whiteboard, and then whatever they do, you can download as a PDF and send to the class. So it's actually really, really good. So thank you for the tips. Wonderful. There is so much, but again, do not feel like, oh, if I need to use the flipped classroom because we have to. It's a requirement at Westcliff. And my class has to be heavily high tech. No, it doesn't need to be. It doesn't need to be. Let's be honest. If you use a Menti, if you use Padlet, and it's gonna be more engaging, but it can also conversations among students, and the way you facilitate your session makes a big difference. Okay, so let's continue. I have another myth here. Students won't do the pre-class work. Someone said that as a myth. So when we talk to faculty and we tell them, okay, at Westcliff, we use the flipped classroom. Oh boy, it's not going to happen. Students are not going to read the syllabus. They're not going to. It's a myth. Depends. Yeah. Uh-huh. Both. Okay. Well, absolutely. It's a myth. I believe it's a myth, but it also depends on the situation. So I know that we worry that students will skip pre-class assignment, but actually research indicates that when students see a direct connection between the pre-class work and in-class activities, participation improves significantly. So there are strategies to promote engagement. You can use low-stake quizzes that hold students accountable without adding excessive pressure. Peer accountability groups that encourage discussions before class. Class discussions and problem-solving activities that explicitly reference pre-class content. And of course, I keep on saying this, the student handbook and the syllabus. So everything is right there in the student handbook. Students sign the handbook when they join Westcliff, and it states that for them to get three at least, well, the credit. The credit that they need per class is 3 credits in most classes, 135 hours. They need to engage at least 90 hours in preparation. So they have signed that. That's contract. We can make them accountable for preparing before class. But anyways, maybe you tell them, oh, you signed the faculty handbook, the student handbook. You know that you should get prepared. They don't. I think the best approach here is always connecting what we do in the classroom to the pre-class activities and resources. That way students realize, I need to read, I need to get prepared so I can participate in my class. Also the rubric specifically tells us that preparation is part of the assessment for BCS participation and professionalism in the rubric. So keep that in mind. If you use the rubric properly, objectively, students also know, okay, I didn't get 100% because even though I was there, I didn't participate actively. I didn't actually add to the compensation using the pre-class resources. Next one. Flipped learning or the flipped classroom removes the role of instructor. So you give students a syllabus, go ahead, read, come to class, and let's talk about it. That's it. What is it? It's absolutely a myth, right? We know that. We know that firsthand. Rather than diminishing the instructor's role, the flipped classroom transform it. In a flipped classroom, we take on more interactive roles, such as we're facilitators. We guide the discussions and we encourage student collaboration. We are also mentors. We provide personalized feedback and support. We are even coaches. We help students navigate complex concepts and real world application. So this shift allows you instructors to engage more directly with students, right? Addressing misconceptions in real time and fostering a more interactive learning environment. Now let's talk a little bit about the challenges and solutions. And I'm going to use again the Menti because I want to use this as much as I can. There you go. Mix it. I have another question for you. What challenges do you face in student engagement, and what best practices might address these challenges? We talked a little bit about those challenges at the beginning. So while the flipped classroom offers numerous benefits, we know that implementing it successfully presents several challenges. We know that. So sometimes we encounter student resistance, difficulty in designing materials, challenges in managing class time. So what are those challenges, the most common challenges, and what practical solutions have you used?
I can give you an example if you don't mind. Some of the challenges that I find is to find what's really interesting and engaging for students. Sometimes you want to give them something challenging yet achievable, so that you can stimulate thinking and have them really, dig deep in order to find the answer. And sometimes just struggle and find the right topic. And one way around it for me personally is to have students introduce themselves and learn a little bit about their background. So when I do design those assignments, I take that into consideration so they can bring in their expertise and shine during the discussions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dr. Asaf, for your ideas. Absolutely. Anyone else? Let's see on the Menti, too much materials to read. Okay, sometimes students feel overwhelmed with all the articles that they need to read, the videos that they need to watch, and us as well. Because if we are given a course to teach, we should also read and engage with all those pre-class activities and resources so we can plan our classes based upon those pre-class resources. Some students have no time because they're working. Keeping students engaged and empowering them to share their point of view and engage in lively discourse. Getting students to prepare, getting students to respond, best practices, assign tasks and responsibilities. Wonderful. some students consider themselves introverts, which is true. Sometimes we have students who don't like to talk much. That's why also as instructors, we need to think about ways to reach them. Doesn't need to be orally. We can do activities in which some students write, if that's how they feel more comfortable with. Some others talk, if that's what they feel their strengths are. So yeah, just being as flexible as we can, collaboration, make it engaging and relevant, find out their passion and strengths and incorporate them into the lesson. This builds motivation, absolutely. Introverts will speak when invited. True. That is true. And it's also the setting, that the mood in the classroom. Like if students know that they can make mistakes and it's okay, that when they participate, there's no right and wrong answer. We're there to learn. So I think that's going to that sets the tone for the whole class. Thank you so much for sharing. Let me share again my screen. There you go. Sorry. Okay. I lost the screen and I couldn't say it anyway. Okay, so let's talk about, oh no. I haven't talked about it. So yes, it is true. We talk about the challenges that students face, that we face in the classroom, and students as well. Students' resistance. Yeah, some students may be resistant to the flipped model, expecting traditional lectures. That happens a lot. Like if you use active learning, most students will be very engaged, but depending on the culture of the students or sometimes their academic background, they feel like it's the professor who should be talking and talking and talking. If you're not doing that, you're not teaching. They're not used to having to use 90 hours of their time outside of the classroom to get prepared. They're not used maybe to coming to class and finding like, oh, there's nothing new. I'm just applying and enhancing my understanding of the pre-class resources. So that's a challenge. So I believe that the solution here is to clearly explain the benefits of the flipped classroom, provide guidance on how to engage with pre-class materials, and use small structured activities to ease students into active learning. You can start really small, and that makes a good progress. Also, some professors have said, well, it's very difficult to ensure pre-class preparation. So yeah, the challenge is that students may not complete pre-class work, making in-class activities less effective. Let's face it, it happens. So I would recommend to use graded pre-class quizzes, accountability systems. We have them in place. Again, student handbook, I believe it's page 61, if I'm not mistaken. The rubrics. Also peer accountability systems, making them work outside of the class in groups and assign roles, as someone said on the chat, in order to reinforce connections between pre-class work and in-class discussion. Another challenge that we might face is that we struggle with structuring active learning sessions efficiently, because it's a challenge. I've been there. I do that a lot, and it's a challenge to manage time. So when we talk about that, we try to plan in-class activities. We need to really do it very carefully. Think about group discussions, case studies, and real-world applications, because at the end of the day, that's what we want them to do, to move from what they're learning in the classroom to be able to apply outside of the classroom walls. Let me check the chat. I lost it again. Okay. Now let's talk about best class or best teaching practices for in-class activity. And while I'm talking about it, I just don't really want to talk about it. I want to hear from you. What are you doing to engage students in your classes using the flipped classroom? So not teaching anything new, but just like taking what they learned outside of the class, pre-class resources in your lessons. What are you doing that has proven to be effective?
I can share.
Absolutely.
So I just finished teaching the advanced supervision of curriculum. And one of the things that we tried this time was to do a simulation. So towards the end of the class, I had each of them take a different role. One was the teacher, one was the union rep, and one was the principal. And I gave them the information a couple weeks ahead of time to study their character, to be prepared. And they took it very seriously. I was
Love
very impressed, and we would pause in the middle and kind of talk about what they were, how they were acting, or what they were discussing, how that connected to effective feedback. So that was one thing that I found helpful for them.
Thank you so much for sharing, and see the importance of sharing that beforehand, right? Not when they come to class, but okay, in 2 weeks, what I used to do when I was teaching at the MATSO program was to send an email on Mondays. So it's like, and my classes were on Thursdays. So I sent an email telling them, hey, remember that these are the readings for this week, a template. I used it over and over again, every session. And this is the activity that we're going to do in the class. It's related to this content. We are going to be working with role plays. So think about, so I give them the situation so they came to class prepared. So thank you so much for sharing. I have some comments here. I found that when I thank the student who has shared, explaining that I have learned from them, it is helpful. Absolutely. Absolutely. It boosts their self-esteem, right? The student becomes the professor and the professor can be the student that way. Love it. It is true. I mean, teaching is ongoing learning. When you are in the classroom, you're also learning. I completed a team-based learning consortium certification program in which I learned how empowering and helpful working with case study analysis can be. Absolutely true. And especially here in the business courses, we use case-based case studies in our syllabus. But again, it doesn't need to be in the syllabus for you to use it. A case study can actually take, and I'll show you in a minute, can take quite some time of your class if it's well facilitated. It gives students a real world context. And with only one case study, you can actually spend the whole 3 hours talking about it and engaging with students and talking about challenges, possibilities, all of that, all of that. Thank you so much for sharing. So I'm going to share 4 that we use a lot here at Westcliff and have proven to be very effective. Think, pair, share. For those who are introverted, they don't want to talk too much, or like me, if I'm in a class, I only speak if I know exactly what I'm going to say. I just want to have time to think. I don't want to be asking and then either kind of put me on the spot. It doesn't work for me. It works for some people. So I want to have time to think about it. So maybe, and then I can pair with somebody, discuss my point of view, and then share with the whole class. So think about think, pair, and share. Present a question, a case, problem related to the pre-class material. Give students a minute to think independently. Take notes before they say anything. Just take notes. Have students pair up and discuss their responses, and then ask the pairs to share their responses and answers with the whole group. Why is that beneficial for students? It encourages critical thinking and peer learning, and it allows you, the instructor, to gauge the student in understanding. You can also use, as we discussed, case study analysis. So provide students with a real-world case study. Ask them to identify key problems, apply concepts from pre-class work. Facilitate group discussions to compare different approaches, different perspectives. Have students present their findings and conclusions. And you will see that their students' problem solving and analytical skills are developed and enhanced, and they're actually able to connect theory to practical application. Usual learning is another one that I suggest. So how do you do that? Well, divide students in small groups. Assign each group a different part of a topic. Have students become experts on their assigned section. You can actually do it beforehand. I used to send the resources that they were going to use in the class before coming to class. So they were assigned a section of a reading, of an activity, of a task, and they knew exactly what they needed to do before coming to class. So they're going to rearrange groups so that each new group has one expert from each topic area. So experts teach their peers and they ensure that they fully cover the topic. This is going to help students understand the value of cooperative learning, and it's going to reinforce content comprehension through teaching others. We can also use problem-based learning. You can present a complex real-world problem. You allow students to analyze the issue in small groups. Then you give students as they research and you guide students as they research and apply concepts from the pre-class materials. Then have groups propose, present, and defend their solutions. The benefits, it enhances critical thinking and collaborative problem solving. Apart from it, it also promotes deep engagement with the content. So any other strategies you have used successfully? Let me see, case studies, role plays, absolutely. Absolutely. What is LARPing, Dr. Nui? Can you elaborate on that one? I have never heard of that one.
Live action role playing. In health
Okay.
sciences, we do it a lot where somebody's the dying patient and then, the students have to come in and do everything that they would do to try and bring the person back. And it gets kind of interesting because sometimes the one that's dying refuses to be revived. Absolutely refuses. And the students will get really just like, oh, what do I do now? What do I do now? And they get really very nervous about it, but it's kind of fun.
Absolutely. I can totally see how engaging that can be. Thank you so much for sharing. Anyone else? Any other strategies? There's so many out there. Absolutely so many. Again, does it take time to plan? Maybe it does. Well, planning an effective lesson, regardless the approach that you want to take, takes time to make it right? Someone has, raise your hand. Oh, no. Okay, sorry. I said something. Okay.
Yes, I was raising my hand.
Okay, go ahead, Dr. Amarin.
Okay, I am using the breakout rooms and even the combined classes, even the students who attend on campus and online. I am asking all of them to open their laptops and to brought with them our laptops to the campus. And then I am, depends on the class, I am giving them some case studies to do, to create a few slides, 5, 6 slides about this topic. In the previous class, I asked my doctorate students, to offer fiscal policy to avoid the AI impact on the economy. So, for example, what fiscal policy you suggest as a doctorate student to avoid the unemployment, because AI displaced the labor. So now what you suggest, and it was very interesting points. They created one slide with the policy and the other students discussed with the presenters their policy. And it was really, we didn't feel the time. And the class was amazing and encourage different topics to rise different topics to find different that related to our main topic. And it makes the student wide spectrum of the thought.
Absolutely. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
sharing. It sounds like a very engaging activity. In fact, we're not students are engaged, and we are engaged when we have a 3-hour class, 2-hour class, and out of the blue, it's like, oh my gosh, time's flying. We're about to be finished, and still lots to do. And it has been a very productive session. Thank you so much for sharing. I know that when it comes to planning a class, especially with the flipped classroom, sometimes, yes, it does take time. It's not a lot, to be honest, but it does take time, as in any class. We need to plan the class with the idea or the assumption that students are prepared, right? That's the key. That's the key. So students need to see that they are going to be working with things that they should know beforehand. So I come up with a 2-hour class plan. I know that for Dubai, Jordan, Italy, Germany, we have some classes that are 1.5 hours, 2 hours, depending on the amount of students you have. So you can totally tailor this. I'll share that with you in a sec because I created a handout for this session. So here you have a 2-hour in-class session template. It can be 1.5 to 2 hours. So I just start with a warm-up, 10 minutes. Quickly assess how well students understand the pre-class materials. with a Zoom poll, a survey, a Google quiz. So you set the stage for active engagement. So use a quick poll again, or a quiz. It can be, if you're on campus in paper, it doesn't need to be that high tech, to see what concepts are clear or unclear. Then you can ask a big question to spark students' interest and remind them what they have learned before class. Then you move on to a collaborative reflection or on pre-class materials. That can be like 20 minutes. Let students articulate insights from pre-class work and clarify any misconceptions. That's going to happen. They engage with the resources by themselves. There must be things that they thought they understood, but it wasn't really clear. So that's what the class or live session is all about. So you can think about, include things like think, print, share, small group discussions in breakout rooms. Just post 2 to 3 guiding, burning, hot questions about the pre-class reading or video and have students discuss, and get in groups and discuss, and then prepare a brief summary. Then you have an active learning task that might take like 20 minutes. In this task, students are going to apply the foundational knowledge to a practical or more realistic scenario. So use a case study, problem-solving situation. So a short case, it doesn't need to be that elaborated or a challenging question. And students work in small groups to propose solutions. Then you can have 10 minutes of clarification or a kind of a mini lecture. So address common issues, take a deep dive into a concept that proved difficult during the group work. Also, if your live session takes place after the deadline for the discussion questions and gap, have a look at the discussion questions and see where those gaps are. And then you can also bring those questions to your live sessions. Then you can have, of course, a very small break if needed. Sometimes it's when 1.5 hours, 2 hours. I don't think we need a break. Then you can have a second task.
Yeah, we don't
sorry.
give them break because the session or 1 hour or 1.5 hour basically. Only we have one
Okay.
course 2 hours. So that's why we don't recommend break. We don't have enough time. Thank
Okay, thank you for clarifying that. I was about to say it's a break. Normally we do it in a 3-hour session. Okay, thank you so much. Then you have an active learning tasks where students think a little bit more critically and creatively, and they build on the skills from the first task. Think about, again, a complex problem, a debate, a collaborative project work in teams, students teaching one another, peer teaching. And then at the end, you have a question and answer round with reflection. So basically to consolidate learning, resolve remaining questions, and allow students to reflect on their progress. Doesn't need to be that elaborated, open-ended Q&A. You open the floor for discussions. You can even ask students, just checking for understanding, keep that in mind as well. Ask students to share one aha moment, like, yes, I got this, or one confusion from the day. So that can actually help. Now, any other ideas? Let me see the chat. Oh yeah, Dr. Newby, I will share these slides and the recording with all of you. And I also want to share a handout that we created for this session. In that handout, there are 4 different lesson plans that you can use. You can download it on, from Acorn. You can access Acorn through Okta, through my.westcliff.edu. You have Acorn right there. If you have not used Acorn before, if you have not completed any courses, your account has been suspended. But you can always send us an email and we will reactivate it for you. Interesting. Let me see. I can open that link. Okay, Dr. New, it might be that you have not used Acorn.
I have, but not for a while.
Okay, that could be the reason. So you keep the link. I can share with all of you after the session is over. I'll send an email, and then with the link to the handout, you can see it right here. It's opened, so you see some best practices and some ideas how to break down your classes. So, and we added 2 hours and 3 hour sessions. So you can use this not only for your classes with our partner universities, but also with your regular classes here at Westcliff.